wife beater, gambler, a complete disgrace. The words in the alumni group chat were a public execution of Liam Lynn's reputation. At the reunion, his name was deliberately left off the guest list. The final, pathetic humiliation for the man who had destroyed their college goddess, Chloe. They sneered as Liam Lynn sat in the corner, a forgotten joke. They toasted to a classmate's $100 million company, mocking the silent failure beside the woman they all coveted. But when the door swung open and the hotel owner's son, a man even the wealthiest guest had to bow to, strode in, he ignored everyone else. He walked straight to Liam, bowed his head deeply, and asked with the utmost respect, "Brother Lynn, my apologies for not welcoming you personally. Is the service to your liking?" The room froze. The clinking glasses fell silent. They thought they were sitting in judgment of a loser. They were about to learn they weren't even worthy of kneeling before a king. Chapter 181. With the shadow of the loan sharks lifted, genuine, heartfelt laughter finally filled the small living room of Hector Zhang's apartment. Tina Wang's cooking was as good as ever. The sweet and sour pork glistened. The sour fish soup was tangy and appetizing, and the rich aromas mingling with strong liquor infused the home, long crushed by the weight of life, with a newfound warmth and vitality. "Vincent, you're not married yet, so you don't know the meaning of family drama." Ju, his face flushed from drinking, lectured Vincent like a seasoned veteran. "Wait till you get a wife, then you'll know what a headache it all is." "Get lost." Vincent laughed and punched him playfully. "I'll take advice from Hector, but who are you to lecture me?" Amidst the light-hearted banter, Liam stood up and quietly brought over the briefcase that had been sitting in the corner. He placed it in the center of the table with a heavy thud, instantly drawing everyone's attention. "Before we drink anymore, I have something to say." Liam's gaze swept over his three friends, his tone more serious than ever. "Let's agree on this first. No one is allowed to refuse, or I walk out that door right now." With a click, the latches on the briefcase sprang open. As he lifted the lid, a sight that would make any ordinary person's breath catch was revealed, a dazzling, shocking sea of red. 90 stacks of brand-new $100 bills were arranged like a military parade, the concentrated aura of wealth so palpable it seemed to make the air in the room thick and heavy. "There's 900,000 here." Liam's voice was calm and steady. "Hector, this 300,000 is a gift for your second child. Vincent, Jay, this 300,000 is an advance on your wedding gifts from me." "You?" Hector started to protest, but Liam shot up from his seat, pretending to leave. "Damn it, what are you doing?" Hector panicked, grabbing Liam's arm. "You brat, get back here." "Fine, I'll take it, all right." A triumphant smile finally touched Liam's lips as he slowly sat back down. "For the past few years, I was a mess and I neglected our friendship. Now that I have some ability, the only way I can make it up to you is with money. I hope you don't think it's tacky. My God, please, just bury us in your money." Ju howled dramatically. Just then, Tina Wang, who had been silent, stood up with her glass, her cheeks flushed with a mixture of excitement and shame. "Liam, I'd like to propose a toast. I know you all must have heard Hector and me fighting. It wasn't that I didn't want to lend you the money, it's just, if we were rich, I wouldn't have blinked at 3,000, or even 30,000. Liam looked at her quietly until she lowered her eyes, a bit uncomfortable. Then he smiled gently and raised his glass to clink with hers. "Tina, do you remember the first time I came to your place? Your newly decorated apartment. I stayed for a month and made a complete mess of things, but you never once complained. Because of that, how could I ever think you were insincere?" He turned to his three friends and said, word by word, "I don't see what you did as helping me, and I don't see what I'm doing as helping you. We are brothers." Brothers. For glasses slammed together, and the fiery liquor burned down their throats, igniting the deepest bonds of friendship in their chests. After a few more rounds, Liam put down his chopsticks and spoke again. This time, the light in his eyes burned hotter than the 900,000 in cash. "Before we get too drunk, there's one more thing. Hector, Vincent, Jay, are you interested in coming to work with me?" The noisy table fell silent. Without giving them time to react, Liam continued. "Besides Phoenix Pharmaceuticals, I have 3 other companies: Phoenix Entertainment, Phoenix Capital, and Phoenix Properties. Hector, you studied finance, so you'd be perfect for Phoenix Capital. Vincent and Jay, you both studied business administration, you can go to Phoenix Entertainment." His words were like a thunderclap, leaving the 3 brothers dizzy. Hector collected himself and said with a wry smile, "Liam, what would I do there? Start from the bottom with a basic salary of a few thousand." "A few thousand?" Liam shot him a look. "Brother, you might not have the work experience, but this is what you majored in. I don't need a yes man for a subordinate. I need a brother I can trust completely. How about this? You'll be the director of the investment manager division at Phoenix Capital. Starting salary of 30,000 a month, with year-end bonuses on top of that." "Director?" Hector shot to his feet, his face a mask of disbelief. Are you kidding me? Do you know how important that position is? If an investment fails, the losses could be in the tens of millions, even hundreds of millions." "I know." Liam's gaze was as steady as iron. "I've gotten to where I am today in just a few months. Brother, do you trust my judgment? I'll control the overall strategy. You don't have to worry about losses. I don't need a heartless money-making machine. I need a brother who can help me guard my kingdom. Just like the guy who used to sneak me chicken legs back in the day. Hector shuddered. He looked at Liam and seemed to see his younger, more ambitious self from their college dorm. He grabbed the liquor bottle, poured himself a full glass, drained it in one go, and slammed the glass back on the table. Fine. If you have that kind of courage, how can I not have the guts to match it? Vincent and Jay grew excited. Liam, what about us? You guys? Liam gave them a mysterious smile. Phoenix Entertainment will have several subsidiaries in the future for media, film, music, and more. You'll be directors. All those big celebrities will be your employees. Big celebrities? Jay's eyes lit up. Like who? Liam softly uttered a single name. Jessica Chu. Holy crap. Jay leaped out of his chair. The new generation national goddess, Jessica Chu. They drank until 3 in the afternoon. When they finally parted ways, everyone seemed drunk, but in their hearts, they were clearer than ever. After seeing his friends off, Liam leaned back in the seat of his Phantom, waves of dizziness washing over him. He didn't call for a driver. Instead, on a whim, he dialed Chloe's number. Hello? Have you been drinking? Chloe's voice came through, a mix of complaint and undeniable concern. Honey, Liam's voice was hoarse and a little pathetic from the alcohol. I'm at the Shanghai CG complex. I can't drive. Can you come pick me up? There were a few seconds of silence, followed by a soft sigh. Wait right there. And don't you dare even think about drunk driving, or you'll have me to answer to. Chapter 182. The 4 o'clock sun in the winter afternoon had lost its warmth. When Chloe got out of the taxi, the cold wind immediately whipped through her long hair. She spotted the elegant lines of the Phantom at once, and Liam leaning against the door, swaying slightly in the wind. He wasn't sitting in the warm car, just standing outside like a lost child. In that moment, the emotion that washed over Chloe wasn't annoyance, but an indescribable pang of heartache. Why aren't you sitting in the car? What are you doing standing out here? She asked, jogging over to him. Her voice filled with a concern she didn't even realize was there. I was just afraid you wouldn't find me. Liam mumbled, his head down, the reek of alcohol heavy on his breath. Chloe helped him into the passenger seat and leaned over to buckle his seatbelt. The familiar, faint scent of her perfume filled the air. Liam suddenly reached out, pulling her into a hug. With a cry of surprise, Chloe lost her balance and fell onto him. Even through their thick winter coats, she could feel the warmth of his chest and the strong, steady beat of his heart. Honey, you're so good to me, Liam whispered in her ear. Chloe's face flushed beet red, but she feigned annoyance. What's so good about me? You're beautiful, you're gentle, you have a perfect body. Liam's voice grew lower, bolder with the influence of alcohol. Even when you always go along with what I want. Liam, you're impossible. Chloe sputtered, struggling to sit up. She gave him a sharp pinch on his side. As she started the car and pulled smoothly onto the road, her heart refused to calm down. The car was warm and cozy. Liam leaned back, his gaze hazy as he watched her profile. He suddenly reached out and gently stroked her hair. Chloe, do you know what I'm most afraid of right now? What? Her voice was a little strained. I'm most afraid of losing you again. Chloe's body gave an almost imperceptible shudder, and her fingers tightened on the steering wheel. She didn't answer, just kept driving in silence. After a long while, the sound of steady breathing filled the car. She glanced over. The man with the sharp, handsome features had fallen asleep, but his brow was still slightly furrowed. The ache in her heart deepened. When Liam woke up again, he found himself in the bedroom of his parents' house. His head was throbbing as if it were about to split open. The bedroom door creaked open, and 2 figures, one large and one small, tiptoed in. His daughter, Sophie, was carefully carrying a glass of warm water. Daddy, you're awake. Sophie's cheerful cry was like a ray of sunshine, instantly clearing the fog in Liam's mind. As Liam sat up, Chloe naturally moved to sit behind him, her slender hands gently massaging his temples with just the right amount of pressure. Sophie danced around in front of him like a happy butterfly. The warmth of the moment was so profound, Liam found himself completely lost in it, hating the worthless man he used to be more than ever. Just then, his phone rang. It was Zane Zhou, his voice urgent. Brother, you finally answered. Quick, turn on Ezhou Provincial TV at 7:30, then the premiere channel at 7:40. You have to see this. The family gathered on the living room sofa. On the screen, the main evening news on Ezhou TV had just begun. According to official disclosures from Ezhou, the Azure-based city enterprise, Phoenix Pharmaceuticals Co., Ltd., has donated $3 billion to Hanshan Township in Dagwon County for the construction of roads and bridges in the Tumen village area. When the drone footage of the shockingly barren land appeared on screen, Aaron and Felicity Lin fell silent. Liam pointed to a gorge in the footage and said softly, "That's Death Valley. That's where Finn fell from that night." The hand Chloe had resting on Liam's shoulder tightened unconsciously. At 7:40, Aaron nervously changed the channel to the premiere channel. This was the highest-rated channel in the entire country. When the familiar anchor announced, in perfect standard Mandarin, the Azure-based City Enterprise, Phoenix Pharmaceuticals Co., Ltd. Aaron was so excited he trembled, tightly gripping his wife's hand. The news not only reported the donation but also announced that the infrastructure would be named Phoenix Road and Phoenix Bridge, and mentioned that Phoenix Pharmaceuticals had already established a charitable foundation. This was no longer just a news story. It was a signal, a message sent from the nation's highest authority to all entrepreneurs. After the broadcast, the living room was silent. After a long moment, Ethan let out a whoop. "My brother is a freaking legend." Aaron shot to his feet and gave Liam a fierce hug, his voice hoarse with emotion. "That's my son. Awesome." The next morning, Liam was woken by a call from Preston Pang, the CEO of Sparrow Media. Only then did Liam realize that the story of his donation had completely exploded online, dominating the top trending spots on every platform. However, Preston's news wasn't all good. "Mr. Lin, since the IPO, the stock price has been stuck at 60, and we still have 2 million unsold shares. We're already down 120 million on the books," Preston said, his voice laced with anxiety. Liam just chuckled, as if 120 million was an insignificant number. "Mr. Pang, remember what I told you? Watch and wait." "But when the finals of China's hot hits begin, the stock will go crazy," Liam interrupted, his tone leaving no room for doubt. "Before that happens, I need you to do something for me." "What is it?" A playful smile touched Liam's lips as he slowly uttered a sentence that nearly made Preston's head explode. "Spread the rumor that Yun Jujuan and Huan Luyun, the two hottest contestants right now, are, in all likelihood, going to be eliminated." After Preston Pang's call ended, Liam's fingertips tapped a light, crisp rhythm on his sleek desk. Outside, the winter skyline of Azure Bay City was sharp and cold. In his mind, names and faces surfaced one by one, weaving together the grand blueprint for Phoenix Entertainment. Yun Jujuan, Huan Luyun, Jessica Chu. These future stars of the entire Chinese-speaking world would all be his for the taking. That afternoon, at the Serenity Tea House, the air was filled with the fragrance of high-grade green tea and faint sandalwood. Mr. Han Sr., a man who had spent his entire life in the construction industry, was now personally brewing tea for Liam, his posture deferential. Liam quickly took the clay pot from him. "Uncle Han, you're my elder. I can't have you pouring tea for me." "Mr. Lin, you're too kind, Mr. Han said with the characteristic humility of a seasoned businessman. After the pleasantries, they got down to business. Liam's voice grew steady. The Guoxing Bridge and Bayside Ring Road projects can now be handed over to Phoenix Properties. The initial $4 billion in funding is already in place. His gaze was sharp as he looked directly at Mr. Han. "Uncle Han, these are both official government projects. Money is not an issue, but quality is the bottom line. If anything goes wrong, both our heads won't be enough to answer for it." "I understand." Mr. Han's expression turned serious. "I've been building houses my whole life, and I've never cut corners on my conscience." Reassured, Liam relaxed. A tea server in an elegant dress approached gracefully to refill their water. As she reached for the teapot, her smooth, jade-like fingers deliberately brushed against the back of Liam's hand before closing around the handle. The brief, probing touch made Liam's brow furrow almost imperceptibly. He said nothing. After Mr. Han left, under the woman's watchful gaze, Liam stood up, took a $100 bill from his wallet, placed it under his teacup, and walked away without a backward glance. The temptations of the world were a hero's tomb, and he had a tough battle to fight, and a home to return to. That evening, in the heavenly pavilion suite at the Oceanus Hotel, the atmosphere was warm and lively. The moment Liam and Chloe walked in, Zhangzhou leaped toward them with a loud cry, only to be deftly dodged by Liam, who sent him crashing into the doorframe. "Brother Lin, I haven't seen you in over 20 days, and you won't even give me a hug? My heart is broken." Hugo Han, Nico Hong, Liu Li, and the others were all there. The three women at the table huddled together, whispering amongst themselves. After a few drinks, Nico Hong's shiny bald head drooped, his face etched with sorrow. "Brother Lin, my sister has broken my heart. I think she has a boyfriend." Zane and Hugo burst into merciless laughter, enraging Nico so much he nearly flipped the table. Liam waved his hand to stop their antics and turned to Nico. "Don't worry, Clara won't end up with him. And besides, that guy will be leaving Phoenix Marine very soon." His words were like a magic spell, instantly lifting Nico from despair to euphoria. He was so excited he could barely speak. "My brother, you're my true brother. The eldest brother is like a father. From now on, I will properly honor you, my elder." After settling Nico's life crisis, Liam's expression turned serious, and the atmosphere in the room solidified. Everyone stopped eating, their gazes fixed on him. They knew the real show was about to begin. "You all know about Bitcoin, right?" Liam's voice was not loud, but it landed clearly in everyone's hearts. "For our next move, how about we be the capitalists this time?" Everyone's breathing quickened. On November 26th, at 3 p.m., The price of Bitcoin will experience a cliff-like drop, Liam revealed without any suspense. What we're going to do isn't shorting or buying the dip in the stock market. We're going to buy Bitcoin itself. This time, the rise and fall of its value will far exceed the fluctuations of its market capitalization. Leo Lee rubbed his hands together nervously. Brother Lin, so? How big are we going this time? Leo, when have we ever not gone all in? Nico Hong mumbled. Leo drained his glass of red wine as if for courage and roared. To hell with it. All in it is. All in. Everyone echoed, raising their glasses. A massive tidal wave of wealth already seemed to be gathering at their feet. On the way home, Liam was driving Chloe's small, chic car. The space was compact, but incredibly cozy. As she drove, Chloe mentioned casually, Caleb called me today. He said he'd like to treat you to dinner sometime. Liam sat up straight. His brother-in-law, who had always given him the cold shoulder, was actively inviting him to dinner? This was a huge signal, a sign that the ice in their family relationship was about to break. The next day, in the chairman's office at the Phoenix Pharmaceuticals Industrial Park, Victor Zhang, the usually stoic research fanatic, had an irrepressible excitement in his eyes. He held a test tube filled with a pale blue liquid, his voice trembling slightly. It's not a complete success, but it's close. All 12 of the test subjects this time recovered completely within half a day, with no side effects. Liam's heart pounded. So, the drug works. It just needs to be faster? Yes. A fire burned in Victor's eyes. My goal is 3 hours. Before New Year's Day, I promise, I will have it perfected. New Year's Day. Liam felt the blood rushing through his veins. He could already see tens, hundreds of billions waving at him. A new pharmaceutical empire rising from the ground. Good. I knew I wasn't wrong about you. As soon as you succeed, I'm authorizing a $200 million bonus. 100 million of it is for you personally. The massive number made Victor's body tremble. However, the elation on his face lasted only a moment before being replaced by a look of deep unease. He looked at Liam and said with difficulty, about the bonus. Let's talk about that later. The lab. We're out of money. Out of money. Liam's brow furrowed into a knot. He looked at the research fanatic before him, wondering if he had misheard. Victor's face was a mixture of embarrassment and helplessness as he repeated in a low voice. Yes. The 500 million in the company's account is gone. 500 million. In less than 2 months, it had vanished as if thrown into a furnace. Liam could feel a throbbing in his temples. He knew pharmaceutical development was expensive, but he had never imagined it was such a terrifying money-eating beast. Mr. Lin, it couldn't be helped, Victor explained hastily. To develop a revolutionary product, you need an enormous amount of capital to lay the groundwork. I can give you my word. If the funding is there, the new flu drug will be ready before New Year's Day. Not only that, but I already have mature concepts for a hyper-effective athlete's foot cream and ingrown toenail cream. Seeing the unshakable confidence and passion in Victor's eyes, Liam suppressed his shock. He waved his hand, cutting off Victor's attempt to explain where the money went. When you trust someone, you don't doubt them. And I trust you. He stood up and walked to the window, watching the tiny cars below. His voice was firm. I'll say it again. As long as you can develop good products, even if I have to sell everything I own, I will never let you be held back by a lack of funds. He would transfer $1 billion from his personal account and mortgage the entirety of Phoenix Pharmaceuticals. Liam's decision was like lightning. He immediately called Harvey Huang, the city's finance director. Mr. Lin needs a loan. Harvey sounded completely unsurprised. Director Zhou specifically told me that if you ever have capital needs, we should help in any way we can. The value of his connections was on full display. At 2 that afternoon, at the bank branch, Liam met not only with Anderson Yang, but also with the head of the entire Azure Bay City Central Bank, Mr. Goe. The latest I can wait is 2 p.m. on the 26th, Liam said, pushing all the documents across the table, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. To secure a loan large enough to shake any bank in just a day and a half. Mr. Goe's brow was furrowed tightly. He finally offered an extreme proposal. 10 billion in 3 days. 80 billion in 2 days. 60 billion in 1 day. 80 billion. A day and a half, Liam said, his gaze locked on the man, filled with a desperate resolve. Looking at the impossibly young man before him, Mr. Goe finally nodded with a wry smile. I'll see what I can do. That evening, outside Trident International, Liam leaned against Chloe's small car, waiting quietly. But then, a figure he had been trying to avoid appeared silently behind him. Are you avoiding me? Jenna Zhao's voice was laced with resentment. I know exactly what you're up to, Liam said bluntly. I don't care if you call me your brother or your grandfather. I'm still going to avoid you. As they were arguing, Chloe's voice suddenly came from behind them. It was smiling, but it sent an icy chill down Liam's spine. What are you two talking about? Before Liam could speak, Jenna shot back. Does it have anything to do with you? Before the words were even out of her mouth, a soft but strong hand grabbed Liam's arm, pulling him gently to Chloe's side. Chloe was still smiling, but she looked like a lioness protecting her mate. She said to Jenna, word by word, This is my husband. So, you tell me, does it have anything to do with me? You're already divorced. Jenna was completely provoked. Chloe, if you really loved him, you never would have divorced him in the first place. Now you don't want to remarry him, but you stop anyone else from pursuing him. What are you trying to do? Her accusation was like a needle, viciously piercing the defenses Chloe had so carefully constructed. The smile on Chloe's face froze, then shattered. Her body began to tremble uncontrollably, and her eyes instantly turned red. I don't love him. Her voice sounded as if it were being torn from her throat, raw and bleeding. Jenna Zhao, I love him. I love him down to my bones. I once swore that if I had to leave this world, I would go after him. Because he doesn't like doing laundry, he doesn't like to cook, he doesn't even know where his own socks are without me. I have to take care of him. The tears finally broke through. It wasn't silent sobbing, but a painful, long-suppressed release. How could you possibly know how much it hurt to get that divorce certificate? How could you know that when he left our home, I was constantly worried about whether he was okay? And how could you know how many times I wanted to tell him that I never wanted to leave him? She was like a small boat tossed in a storm, helpless yet stubbornly standing her ground. She stared at Jenna, and with all the strength she had left, she screamed her final words. You don't understand anything. You haven't been through what we've been through. What right do you have to say you love him? Jenna stood there, stunned, her face pale. She had never seen this side of Chloe, so fragile, yet so powerful. All her pride, all her resentment, seemed pathetic in the face of such a heart-wrenching confession. All right, Liam could no longer stand it. He stepped forward and pulled the woman who was crying like a child in front of him tightly into his arms. The emotional storm that had erupted outside the office was like a sudden downpour. It was messy, but it washed away all the dust that had settled between them. On the way home, the small car navigated the city traffic, while a strange quiet filled the cabin. Liam kept his hands on the wheel, occasionally glancing over. Chloe leaned against the window, watching the streetlights blur past. The faint redness of dried tears still clung to her cheeks, but she no longer looked as if she were about to break. After a long while, she suddenly spoke, her voice still a bit hoarse, but feigning a light-hearted tone. I was pretty cool back there at the office, wasn't I? Liam was taken aback for a second, then a brilliant smile spread across his face as he gave her a thumbs up. Cool. You were awesome. Totally, epically awesome. Whatever. Chloe rolled her eyes, but a small smile played on her lips. Just pretend you didn't hear any of that. I was just saying it for Jenna's benefit. Oh, really? Liam mimicked her earlier tone, drawing out the words. Husband? Hubby? Honey? Darling? Oh, shut up. Chloe finally laughed, giving him a gentle punch on the arm. It was a soft, playful gesture. The sky after the storm was finally showing its first ray of sun. When the door to Chloe's parents' house opened, they were greeted by the familiar, displeased face of her father, Aaron Shun. Where's my granddaughter? Was the first thing he said. Dad, I just got back. I've been gone for almost a month, and you're not even going to ask how I'm doing. Liam pretended to be hurt. Looking at your well-fed face, do I need to ask? Aaron's eyes narrowed, and he launched into a full-on tirade. You come back from Ijo province without even a single phone call, and now you have the nerve to complain to us? Who's the father here, you or me? Faced with this familiar grilling, Liam didn't grow impatient as he might have in the past. Instead, he acted like a chastised child, repeatedly apologizing. You're the dad, you're the dad. He knew that behind the sharp rebukes lay a deep, suppressed worry. He sidled up to his mother-in-law, Lydia, who had just come from the kitchen, and clutched his stomach pitifully. Mom, I'm hungry. On the dinner table were all of Liam's favorite dishes. The stir-fried pork was cooked to perfection, the steamed carp fragrant and delicious. Lydia watched him devour the food with loving eyes. When Aaron mentioned that his stomach had been bothering him, Liam immediately put down his chopsticks, his expression turning serious. No way. We're not leaving tonight. Tomorrow, I'm driving you to the hospital for a checkup. His tone was non-negotiable. What's there to check? It's an old problem, Aaron said, waving him off out of habit. Mom, I'm not busy. I have all the time in the world, Liam insisted firmly. Tomorrow, I'll call someone right now to arrange an appointment with a gastroenterologist. It's best if it's nothing, then we can all stop worrying. Without giving them another chance to refuse, he took his phone to the balcony. Watching Liam's back, Aaron was stunned. He muttered to himself, that kid, he's starting to care about me. It seems he's really changed. Lydia was also moved. She took her daughter's hand and asked softly, Chloe, honey, let me ask you, have you really made up your mind? Chloe was silent for a long moment. She looked up at her parents, her gaze clear and resolute. She then slowly, but with perfect clarity, said 3 words. Dad, Mom, I love him. Her words were like a key, unlocking the last of her parents' reservations. Aaron's stern expression softened, and Lydia's smile became exceptionally bright. When Liam returned from his phone call, he immediately sensed that the entire atmosphere of the home had changed. His father-in-law even did something unprecedented. He placed the largest piece of fish in Liam's bowl. The next day, the hospital results showed only a mild case of chronic gastritis, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. On the way back, Liam's mood was euphoric. He felt as if even the smog outside had cleared. Just then, a call came in from Dexter Siong. "Brother Len, Zane said we're making a move on Bitcoin soon." "What do you mean, making a move?" Liam said lazily, leaning back in his seat. "Taking care of it is a much better term." His smile was warm, but the words that followed were as cold as capital itself. "How much capital did you raise?" "50 billion in total. It's all money I made following you." Dexter's voice was filled with awe. "It would be best if you can get some more loans," Liam added casually. "The deadline is 2 in the afternoon tomorrow." After he hung up, silence returned to the car. Chloe drove with quiet focus, as if she hadn't heard the staggering sums of money discussed. Liam gazed out the window, his expression deep. Having secured the warmth and stability of his family, his sights were now set on a much more distant horizon. "Dexter," he said, dialing the number again. "You know that place on the outskirts of Seascape City, Guanyin Mountain, right? There's a village up there, Guanyin Village, with about 30,000 square meters of empty land around it. Secure that land for me. I have a use for it." The emotional storm that had erupted outside the office was like a sudden downpour. It was messy, but it washed away all the dust that had settled between them. On the way home, the small car navigated the city traffic, while a strange quiet filled the cabin. Liam kept his hands on the wheel, occasionally glancing over. Chloe leaned against the window, watching the streetlights blur past. The faint redness of dried tears still clung to her cheeks, but she no longer looked as if she were about to break. After a long while, she suddenly spoke, her voice still a bit hoarse, but feigning a light-hearted tone. "I was pretty cool back there at the office, wasn't I?" Liam was taken aback for a second, then a brilliant smile spread across his face as he gave her a thumbs up. "Cool. You were awesome. Totally, epically awesome." "Whatever." Chloe rolled her eyes, but a small smile played on her lips. "Just pretend you didn't hear any of that. I was just saying it for Jenna's benefit." "Oh, really?" Liam mimicked her earlier tone, drawing out the words. "Husband? Hubby? Honey? Darling?" "Oh, shut up." Chloe finally laughed, giving him a gentle punch on the arm. It was a soft, playful gesture. The sky after the storm was finally showing its first ray of sun. When the door to Chloe's parents' house opened, they were greeted by the familiar, displeased face of her father, Aaron Shun. "Where's my granddaughter?" was the first thing he said. "Dad, I just got back. I've been gone for almost a month, and you're not even going to ask how I'm doing." Liam pretended to be hurt. "Looking at your well-fed face, do I need to ask?" Aaron's eyes narrowed, and he launched into a full-on tirade. "You come back from Ijo province without even a single phone call, and now you have the nerve to complain to us? Who's the father here, you or me?" Faced with this familiar grilling, Liam didn't grow impatient as he might have in the past. Instead, he acted like a chastised child, repeatedly apologizing. "You're the dad, you're the dad." He knew that behind the sharp rebukes lay a deep, suppressed worry. He sidled up to his mother-in-law, Lydia, who had just come from the kitchen, and clutched his stomach pitifully. "Mom, I'm hungry." On the dinner table were all of Liam's favorite dishes. The stir-fried pork was cooked to perfection, the steamed carp fragrant and delicious. Lydia watched him devour the food with loving eyes. When Aaron mentioned that his stomach had been bothering him, Liam immediately put down his chopsticks, his expression turning serious. "No way. We're not leaving tonight. Tomorrow, I'm driving you to the hospital for a checkup." His tone was non-negotiable. "What's there to check?" "It's an old problem," Aaron said, waving him off out of habit. "Mom, I'm not busy. I have all the time in the world," Liam insisted firmly. "Tomorrow, I'll call someone right now to arrange an appointment with a gastroenterologist. It's best if it's nothing, then we can all stop worrying." Without giving them another chance to refuse, he took his phone to the balcony. Watching Liam's back, Aaron was stunned. He muttered to himself, "That kid, he's starting to care about me. It seems he's really changed." Lydia was also moved. She took her daughter's hand and asked softly, "Chloe, honey, let me ask you, have you really made up your mind?" Chloe was silent for a long moment. She looked up at her parents, her gaze clear and resolute. She then slowly, but with perfect clarity, said 3 words. "Dad, Mom, I love him." Her words were like a key, unlocking the last of her parents' reservations. That night, at an elegant French restaurant, the air flowed with soft piano music and silver cutlery gleamed under the warm lights. Caleb and his girlfriend, Penny, seemed a bit reserved. Liam, on the other hand, was completely in his element, confidently ordering expensive dishes and wine, and quietly settling the bill in advance. The meal was strange, more silent than conversational. Caleb drank glass after glass of the $5,000 bottle of red wine, his face growing redder, his expression more complex. Outside the restaurant, the cold night air hit him, and the alcohol finally broke through his last barrier of self-control. He stumbled forward, grabbed the lapels of Liam's suit, and slammed him against a wall. "Liam, are you a good person or a bad one?" His voice was hoarse, filled with suppressed anguish. "If you're a good person, you donated $3 billion. But if you're a bad one, why did you hit my sister back then? Why did you curse at my parents?" His face was almost touching Liam's, hot, drunken breath mixing with tears. I never saw you as just my brother-in-law. I looked up to you like a real brother. I idolized you. I even copied the way you smoked because I thought you were so cool. But what about you? Tell me, why did you become that person? Was it my fault, or was it my sister's? Liam didn't struggle. He stood like a silent statue, letting the roar of delayed judgment wash over him. I hate you. I hate you with every fiber of my being. Caleb's voice echoed in the empty street, drawing stares from passers-by. You ruined yourself. You ruined my expectations of you. And you ruined the hero worship I had for you. Chloe and Penny remained silent. They knew this was a reckoning that the proud young man had to face on his own. I'm scared, Liam. Caleb's voice finally cracked with a sob. I'm scared you'll turn back into that person again. I'm scared my sister will fall for your act all over again. You know how much she loves you, don't you? You can be broke, but can't you just be good to her? Is that so hard? After a long moment, Chloe stepped forward and gently pulled her brother's hands away. Her voice was soft but firm. Caleb, let go. He's your brother. Caleb froze. The hands gripping Liam's suit slowly loosened. He looked from his sister to the silent man before him, muttering, Yeah, he's my brother. After Penny led the stumbling Caleb away, Liam remained rooted to the spot. The searing pain washed over him once more. He slowly took off his suit jacket and draped it over the shoulders of the woman who was also shivering in the cold. The sun is rising, he said. Chloe looked up at him. In the darkness, his eyes were clearer than ever before. Come on, Liam said, opening his arms. Let's go home. Chloe smiled, but fresh tears streamed down her face. Without hesitation, she threw herself into the embrace that had once caused her so much pain, but now felt like the warmest place in the world. As Caleb's staggering figure disappeared into the night, the air still seemed to hold the bitter scent of his anguish and the sting of alcohol. Liam stood motionless, letting the cold night wind cut through his thin shirt. Every accusation, a mixture of admiration and resentment, felt like a white-hot knife, slicing open the sins of his past for all to see. He offered no defense. There was none to offer. After a long while, he slowly took off his suit jacket and gently draped it over the shoulders of the woman shivering beside him. Her body was cold, but her eyes were bright. The sun is rising, he said, his voice a little hoarse. Chloe looked up at him. In the darkness, his eyes were clearer and heavier than ever before. Come on, Liam said, opening his arms. Let's go home. Chloe smiled, though fresh tears streamed down her face. This time, she didn't hesitate. She threw herself into the embrace that had once caused her so much pain, but now felt like the warmest place in the world. The drive home was silent, yet it felt as if 1,000 words had been spoken. The small car had never felt so steady. The next morning, Liam didn't linger in the hard-won warmth. He watched the numbers flickering on his phone screen, his expression returning to the calm focus of a hunter. The price of Bitcoin had already fallen from nearly $20,000 the previous night to below $19,000. The drop wasn't massive, but the scent of blood was in the air. He didn't enter the battlefield immediately. First, he went to a mall and a seafood market, then arrived at the Zhou family's courtyard with bags full of gifts. You brat, you've spoiled my palate, Walter Zhou grumbled, though his face was split by a wide grin as he looked at the fresh, fat crabs. Amidst the fragrance of tea, the two sat across from each other. When Liam's heartfelt grandpa escaped his lips, Walter laughed heartily, the wrinkles around his eyes crinkling with pleasure. But after the laughter, the old man's expression grew serious. I know you're planning to expand into Seascape City, which means you already know about the large-scale resort project, and you must have a way to relocate the people from Guanyun Village. Walter took a sip of tea, his gaze sharp as a hawk's. But I'm warning you, a man must be grounded. You are my god-grandson, and you will not do anything immoral or harmful. Do you understand? A chill ran down Liam's spine. He nodded solemnly. He knew the old man saw far beyond the immediate financial gain, to every potential abyss that lay ahead. At 1 p.m, at the bank, after a series of tedious procedures, Anderson Young looked at Liam as if he were a living myth. $80 billion in loan money was transferred, without error, into Liam's account. The massive sum didn't stay for even a second before it, along with Liam's own $30 billion, flowed like a torrent into the secret account controlled by Zane Zhou. $110 billion. In cash. All the pieces were in place. At precisely 2 o'clock, Liam's phone began to ring off the hook, but he didn't answer. He simply stood at his apartment's floor-to-ceiling window, watching the endless stream of traffic below. The entire world seemed to hold its breath. 2:01. The storm broke without warning. The first thunderclap came from the United States. A major American corporation sued the Bitcoin Sea, the world's most powerful mining collective, for market manipulation, freezing all of its assets. The second bolt of lightning struck Europe. Really a virtual ink. The publicly traded company with the largest Bitcoin holdings in the world was reported to be on the verge of bankruptcy after a failed investment led to over $50 billion in unrealized losses. The third death knell sounded in Colombia. The secretive billionaire DISGRACE, who held 830,000 bitcoins, died in a private plane crash. His fortune, worth over 11 billion yuan, vanished with the wreckage. 3 devastating blows sent the global Bitcoin market reeling. Before holders could even react, the final, fatal strike came. The mysterious figure revered as the father of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, suddenly entered the market, publicly dumping 100,000 bitcoins at the rock-bottom price of $10,000 each. Faith, in that moment, completely shattered. Panic spread like a plague to every corner of the globe. Selling. Stampedes. Desperate cries echoed across the world. And the 110 billion in capital, which had been waiting patiently, opened its deep, bottomless jaws like a silent, great white shark. Inside the Clarity Cafe, floor-to-ceiling windows muted the city's noise, and the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee beans filled the air. But the atmosphere inside the private room was colder than the winter wind outside. Brother Lin, forgive my lack of culture, but all I can say is holy crap. Zhang Zhou stared at the cliff-like drop on the chart on his phone, his face a mixture of excitement and shock. How are you so good at this? You even got the timing down to the minute. I'm starting to think you're a time traveler. Liam's heart skipped a beat. He lifted his coffee, using the steam to hide the flicker in his eyes. Everything leaves a trail, he said calmly. Satoshi Nakamoto entering the market was just a tactic to consolidate holdings. With over 100 million Bitcoin users worldwide, the market is too decentralized for the big players. To put it bluntly, this is about creating a monopoly. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Nico Hong said, rubbing his bald head in admiration. Liam smiled. The ones who truly get slaughtered are always the small-time retail investors. We just happen to be standing on the side of the slaughterers. At 3 in the afternoon, the price of Bitcoin hit rock bottom at $7,399. Liam's order was sent via an encrypted line to the temporary trading room set up in the villa. Sweep the board. At his command, 110 billion in cash, like a primordial beast unleashed from its chains, flooded the blood-soaked Bitcoin market through over 1,000 prepared accounts. The retail investors, driven by panic, scrambled to sell their bleeding assets, oblivious to the fact that an invisible net was catching every last one. After the storm, everything returned to calm. Liam went back to his parents' house, where the warm lights chased away the coldness of the financial world. Sophie fluttered around him like a happy little bird. Chloe had also come straight from work and sat down beside him, her face full of concern. Everyone at the office is talking about Bitcoin. They said it crashed, she asked softly. Did you really invest in it? Silly girl, when have I ever lost money on a deal? Liam tapped her nose, his eyes full of affection. I only bought in when it hit its lowest price. He paused, taking her hand. No matter how much I have, or how much I make, it belongs to both of us. You can ask me anything. I will never hide anything from you. His honesty completely eased her worries. She snuggled up beside him, feeling a profound sense of peace as they watched a mindless soap opera on TV. At 6:30, Clara and Ethan returned in their Lamborghinis. Liam stopped his sister as she was heading to her room to work. How have things been lately? He asked casually. How have they been? Busy with work, of course, Clara said, confused. I mean your personal life. Liam's gaze sharpened. Should I be preparing a dowry? Clara blushed slightly. Brother, I don't have a boyfriend. Then what about Warren Huang? Liam said the name directly. Warren Huang. Ethan chimed in. I've met that guy. He's effeminate and insincere. Not good enough for my sister. We just talk at work. The most he's done is treat me to one meal, Clara argued, though she lacked conviction. He seems nice enough. Nice enough. Liam let out a cold laugh and leaned back on the sofa. His voice wasn't loud, but it made the air in the room freeze. He's married. He has 2 children under the age of 4 back in his hometown. What? Ethan exploded with rage. That scumbag dares to make a move on my sister? Clara's face went deathly pale. She stared at Liam, her lips trembling. Brother, is that true? It's very easy for me to investigate someone, Liam said, his voice devoid of emotion. You're my sister. I know you better than anyone. End it now. He's not for you. Understand? Scumbag. Clara hissed the word through gritted teeth, her eyes instantly turning red. Liam watched her run back to her room, a flash of cold fury in his eyes. He could tolerate the deceit and trickery of the business world, but he would never allow anyone to hurt his family. Inside the Clarity Cafe, floor-to-ceiling windows muted the city's noise, and the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee beans filled the air. But the atmosphere inside the private room was colder than the winter wind outside. Brother Lin, forgive my lack of culture, but all I can say is holy crap. Zhang Zhou stared at the cliff-like drop on the chart on his phone, his face a mixture of excitement and shock. How are you so good at this? You even got the timing down to the minute. I'm starting to think you're a time traveler. Liam's heart skipped a beat. He lifted his coffee, using the steam to hide the flicker in his eyes. Everything leaves a trail, he said calmly. Satoshi Nakamoto entering the market was just a tactic to consolidate holdings. With over 100 million Bitcoin users worldwide, The market is too decentralized for the big players. To put it bluntly, this is about creating a monopoly. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant, Nico Hong said, rubbing his bald head in admiration. Liam smiled. The ones who truly get slaughtered are always the small-time retail investors. We just happen to be standing on the side of the slaughterers. At 3 in the afternoon, the price of Bitcoin hit rock bottom at $7,399. Liam's order was sent via an encrypted line to the temporary trading room set up in the villa. Sweep the board. At his command, 110 billion in cash, like a primordial beast unleashed from its chains, flooded the blood-soaked Bitcoin market through over 1,000 prepared accounts. The retail investors, driven by panic, scrambled to sell their bleeding assets, oblivious to the fact that an invisible net was catching every last one. After the storm, everything returned to calm. Liam went back to his parents' house, where the warm lights chased away the coldness of the financial world. Sophie fluttered around him like a happy little bird. Chloe had also come straight from work and sat down beside him, her face full of concern. Everyone at the office is talking about Bitcoin. They said it crashed, she asked softly. Did you really invest in it? Silly girl, when have I ever lost money on a deal? Liam tapped her nose, his eyes full of affection. I only bought in when it hit its lowest price. He paused, taking her hand. No matter how much I have, or how much I make, it belongs to both of us. You can ask me anything. I will never hide anything from you. His honesty completely eased her worries. She snuggled up beside him, feeling a profound sense of peace as they watched a mindless soap opera on TV. At 6:30, Clara and Ethan returned in their Lamborghinis. Liam stopped his sister as she was heading to her room to work. How have things been lately? He asked casually. How have they been? Busy with work, of course, Clara said, confused. I mean your personal life. Liam's gaze sharpened. Should I be preparing a dowry? Clara blushed slightly. Brother, I don't have a boyfriend. Then what about Warren Huang? Liam said the name directly. Warren Huang. Ethan chimed in. I've met that guy. He's effeminate and insincere. Not good enough for my sister. We just talk at work. The most he's done is treat me to one meal, Clara argued, though she lacked conviction. He seems nice enough. Nice enough. Liam let out a cold laugh and leaned back on the sofa. His voice wasn't loud, but it made the air in the room freeze. He's married. He has 2 children under the age of 4 back in his hometown. What? Ethan exploded with rage. That scumbag dares to make a move on my sister? Clara's face went deathly pale. She stared at Liam, her lips trembling. Brother, is that true? It's very easy for me to investigate someone, Liam said, his voice devoid of emotion. You're my sister. I know you better than anyone. End it now. He's not for you. Understand. Scumbag. Clara hissed the word through gritted teeth, her eyes instantly turning red. Liam watched her run back to her room, a flash of cold fury in his eyes. He could tolerate the deceit and trickery of the business world, but he would never allow anyone to hurt his family. In Moline County, in a faded, old apartment building, the sound of suppressed sobs drifted from a 5th-floor window. As soon as Liam and Chloe got out of the car, Aaronsson called, his voice thick with worry. Simons only has one daughter. If you can help them, please do. Dad, don't worry. Liam's voice was unusually steady. I used to be a scumbag, and now, there's nothing I hate more than scumbags like that. After hanging up, they hurried upstairs. Standing outside apartment 501, they could clearly hear Susan use desperate cries. My foolish girl, it's only 200,000. If something really happens to you, how are we supposed to live? The door opened to reveal Susan's distraught face. She grabbed Chloe as if she were a lifeline. Quick, go talk to Sunny. She's locked herself in her room again. I'm so afraid she'll do something stupid. Liam entered the apartment and saw Simon Song on a stepladder on the balcony, leaning out to anxiously watch his daughter's closed bedroom window. The normally stoic carpenter's silhouette was a picture of helplessness and fear. Chloe pounded on the door. Sunny, open up. It's me, Chloe. Liam is here too. He's really capable. He can definitely get your money back. After a long moment, the door creaked open a crack. A gaunt girl appeared, her hair a mess, her eyes sunken. She was so thin she looked like a skeleton, a ghost of her former bright and sunny self. You silly girl. Chloe couldn't hold back any longer, pulling her into a hug and bursting into tears. I'm useless. I'm so sorry, Mom and Dad. Sunny murmured, tears streaming silently down her face. I used their life savings to fund that bitch and that liar's lifestyle. Where is Leo E? Liam's voice cut through the heartbreaking sobs. Once he had the address, Liam didn't hesitate. He dialed Leo Lee's number. Brother, I need a favor. His voice was calm, but carried an undeniable chill. There's a scumbag I need to deal with. Leo Lee understood immediately. Leave it to me. At 4:15 that afternoon, there was a knock on Aaronsson's door. Lydia opened it and was startled by the scene. More than a dozen grim-faced men stood in the hallway. At their lead was Leo Lee, who was holding a shivering young man in his pajamas as if he were a baby chick. The moment he saw Sunny, the man named Leo Yee's legs gave out, and he dropped to his knees, his face a mask of terror. "Sonny, it's my fault. Please tell them to let me go. I love you." Smack. Without a word, Liam slapped him across the face, so hard that Leo saw stars. That 200,000 was the money Sonny gave you out of love. More than that, it was her parents' life savings. Doesn't your conscience bother you when you spend it? I was wrong. I was so wrong. Leo sobbed, snot and tears streaming down his face. Thud. Liam kicked him to the ground. Weren't you so arrogant before? I heard you told Sonny that no one on earth could touch you. You just bully them because they're honest people. Is that it? Without another word, Liam turned, marched into the kitchen, and came back with a gleaming kitchen knife. Leo was so terrified, he instantly lost control of his bladder. "No, I won't do it again. I didn't spend her money. I'll give it all back." Persuaded by the knife, Leo transferred the 200,000 back to Sonny's account with the greatest speed of his life. The moment the bank notification arrived, the tension in Sonny finally snapped, and she collapsed into Chloe's arms, letting out all her anger and grief in a torrent of wails. "Get out." Liam waved his hand as if shooing a fly. "If you ever dare to bother her again, I'll chop off your fingers, one by one." The storm was settled in the most direct and brutal way possible. The atmosphere in the living room finally eased. Liam looked at the slowly calming Sonny, then at Chloe, and quietly tapped a few times on his phone. A moment later, Chloe's phone chimed. She looked down and froze. A text from her bank. A deposit of 10,000,000 yuan. "You." She pulled him into the kitchen, her voice a hushed mixture of shock and anger. "Why did you send me money? What else is it for, decoration?" Liam grinned. Ignoring his mother-in-law, who was washing vegetables nearby, he leaned in and kissed her on the forehead. "You used the last 100,000 I gave you to pay off debts. This is for you, just some spending money. It's too much." "Silly girl," Liam tapped her nose. "Sonny's just starting to feel better. Take her to the mall to cheer her up. Chanel probably has some new arrivals. You need to dress the part to match your husband's new status." Watching Chloe drag Sonny out the door like a happy little bird, a satisfied smile spread across Liam's face. Sometimes, money really could buy a lot of happiness. The car was quiet on the drive back to Azure Bay City, the only sound the rhythmic passing of streetlights that cast fleeting shadows across Chloe's focused face. The only sound the rhythmic passing of streetlights that cast fleeting shadows across Chloe's focused face. "Chloe," Liam's voice broke the silence, trembling slightly. "If it hadn't been for Sophie, would you have done the same thing as Sonny? Would you have tried to take your own life?" Chloe's fingers tightened on the steering wheel. She didn't look at him, just said flatly, "Don't be ridiculous. I thought I understood the pain I put you through." Liam's voice was full of bitter self-loathing. "But seeing Sonny, I saw you all over again. She was only scammed out of her money. I didn't just gamble away our savings. I constantly took my anger out on you and Sophie." "Don't," Chloe cut him off. "We shouldn't live in the past. We should cherish the future." "Cherish the future," Liam repeated softly, as if tasting the weight of the words. "Every great realization is built on the broken pieces of an innocent heart." "Chloe, I'm so sorry." This time, Chloe didn't argue or comfort him. She was silent for so long that Liam thought she wouldn't speak again. Then, very quietly, she said, "I bought some new clothes today, too. When we get back, can you tell me if they look nice?" Liam's breath caught in his throat. He whipped his head around to stare at her, as if he couldn't believe what he'd just heard. "Where are we going?" he asked, his voice raw. "My place." Chloe's cheeks flushed in the dim light, her voice barely a whisper. Liam's eyes went wide. All the regret, the pain, the tension coiled in his heart was instantly blasted away by a wave of pure, unadulterated joy. Yes, your place. To your place. Ha ha ha. A burst of unrestrained laughter erupted from the passenger seat, like a child who had finally been given candy. But fate, it seems, enjoys a cruel joke. When Chloe emerged from her bedroom in a new outfit, a hint of shyness and anticipation in her eyes, the man who had made all those promises was already curled up on the sofa, fast asleep, a goofy smile on his face. In the end, the alcohol had won. The man who had made all those promises was already curled up on the sofa, fast asleep, a goofy smile on his face. In the end, the alcohol had won. Damn it, Chloe stomped her foot in frustration, but there was nothing to be done. She struggled to help him into the bedroom, looked at the way his brow was still furrowed in sleep, and knelt beside the bed to watch him. Finally, she leaned down and pressed a soft kiss on the lips that she both loved and hated. "You idiot," she whispered, her smile full of an endless tenderness. When Liam woke the next morning and remembered the previous night, he wanted to slap himself. "Crap," he swore through gritted teeth. "I'm quitting drinking. That stuff is poison." But life's trials were far from over. At noon, a call from his hometown sent a chill through the family. His father's estranged third brother, Uncle Yu Liang, was in the final stages of liver cancer. His dying wish was to see his eldest brother one last time. Anger flared in Liam's chest. He remembered how these so-called relatives had despised and trampled on his parents' dignity. He wanted to spit out the words, "serves him right." But when he saw his father's back suddenly stoop with age, and the pleading torment in his eyes, all that anger dissolved into a helpless sigh. But when he saw his father's back suddenly stoop with age, and the pleading torment in his eyes, all that anger dissolved into a helpless sigh. In front of his father, he called Nico Hong, and, in the calmest voice he could manage, arranged for the best hospital in the capital. He couldn't forgive, but he couldn't let his father live with regret. Perhaps this was what filial piety meant, to follow his father's wishes, even when it was the last thing he wanted to do. The next day, at 9 in the morning, after a day and night of frantic climbing, the price of Bitcoin finally reached that fateful number, $20,000. Liam called Zane Zhou. Without a moment's hesitation, he gave a single command: sell. On the other end, Zane let out a long sigh of relief. In just 3 hours, as countless retail investors, their greed rekindled, rushed back into the market, the entire 110 billion yuan worth of Bitcoin in their possession was liquidated, silently and completely, leaving no trace. When the text message confirming the deposit arrived, Liam sat alone in his car, silently doing the final math. Purchase cost, 110 billion yuan. Total sale value, 297 billion yuan. In just a matter of days, the net profit was 187 billion. Staring at the number on his phone screen, a figure that would make any government take notice, Liam leaned back in his seat and let out a long breath. There was no joy on his face, only an unprecedented sense of bewilderment and exhaustion. All this money, he thought to himself. What am I even supposed to do with it? 187 billion. The number sat like an invisible mountain on Liam's heart, heavy, yet with an unreal sweetness. He arrived on time outside Trident International, waiting for the woman who made carrying that weight worthwhile. But before Chloe appeared, a call came from his brother, Hector Zhang. Liam, you talked up Phoenix Capital like it was the greatest thing ever, and now I'm just sitting here bored out of my mind. Hector's complaint came through the phone. I'm taking your 30,000 a month salary, and I'm not doing a damn thing to help. What's the point? Liam smiled. He knew his brother's probation period was over. Brother, if you're really that bored, why don't you go take a look at Summit Retail? Summit Retail? That's right. Liam's tone grew serious. I need you to talk to their executives. Money is not an issue, but I want a controlling stake in Summit Retail, over 50%. To demand absolute control of a company valued at 2 billion was an incredibly difficult task. Hector was silent for a moment, then gave a wry laugh. You're really throwing me in the deep end right from the start, aren't you? This is just the beginning, Liam said, his voice filled with unshakable confidence. Before hanging up, Hector hesitated, then added, Did Jina Zhao tell you about what's going on in the university alumni chat group? Those guys still think you're the same old Liam. Liam's smile faded slightly. He shook his head but didn't say much. He didn't know that a storm was already brewing for him in that small chat group. When Chloe walked out of the company building, she still had a playfully annoyed look on her face from the night before. Liam leaned in and said with a straight face, My little brother said he wanted to come out and play with your little sister. I couldn't control him, so I had to bring him along. Liam leaned in and said with a straight face, My little brother said he wanted to come out and play with your little sister. I couldn't control him, so I had to bring him along. Chloe's face instantly turned beet red. In front of all her colleagues, she shot him a flustered, angry look that was somehow utterly charming, and it made Liam's heart skip a beat. Liam pulled her into the phantom and snapped his fingers at Sarah Shun, who was standing nearby. Hey, don't run off. I've got a mission for you. And snapped his fingers at Sarah Shun, who was standing nearby. Hey, don't run off. I've got a mission for you. Inside the car, the atmosphere began to heat up. Liam laid out his victory, the 187 billion score, and was rewarded with a look of utter shock from Chloe. While she was still reeling from the astronomical number, Liam put on a pained expression. We haven't seen each other in months. My little brother really misses your little sister. And was rewarded with a look of utter shock from Chloe. While she was still reeling from the astronomical number, Liam put on a pained expression. I gave you a chance yesterday, Chloe said through gritted teeth, her face still flushed. Your little brother wasn't up to the task. Is that my fault? Well, he's up to it now. Very up to it. Too late, Chloe said, pulling a pink object from her purse and waving it in front of his face. My aunt is visiting. Liam's face fell, the fire in his heart instantly doused with ice water. Oh, so it's your aunt, he groaned in despair. At that comically tragic moment, Jayu's phone call landed like a bomb, shattering the mood in the car. Liam, get in the group chat right now. You need to shut these jerks up. Jay's voice was seething with rage. Liam frowned, but under Chloe's firm gaze, he finally accepted the group invitation. On his phone screen, the university alumni group, named Our Lost Youth, was buzzing with activity, and the topic of conversation was him. But under Chloe's firm gaze, he finally accepted the group invitation. TSK, the golden couple of our year, fallen so low. It's really tragic. Beating his wife, beating his kid, gambling, womanizing. This Liam guy is full of surprises. Such a shame. A wonderful woman like Chloe. If she had married me back then, her life wouldn't have been so miserable, a classmate named Donovan Dong wrote. Donovan, you can still give it a shot. They're divorced now. You drive a Mercedes, own a company, you're a real catch. What's Liam going to do about it? Message after message, each one a poisoned dagger, tore open his old scars and left them bleeding for all to see. Jay was fighting a lonely battle in the chat, but he was hopelessly outnumbered. Where are those so-called brothers of his? How come they're not saying anything? Donovan posted, followed by a mocking emoji. Just as he sent it, two familiar profile pictures lit up. Hector Zhang. Donovan Dong, go to hell. Vincent Liu. You son of a bitch, Grandpa Liu is here. The 187 billion yuan profit, now just a long string of cold zeros in his bank account, left Liam with a sense of unreal bewilderment. He sat in the Phantom, quietly waiting for Chloe to get off work. What was the ultimate point of all this wealth? He didn't know, but he knew that the beginning and end of all his efforts was the woman about to walk out of that building. A call came from his brother, Hector, his voice full of a hero's frustration. Liam, I'm sitting in this office every day, taking your 30,000 a month salary, and I can't do a thing to help. What's the point? Liam smiled. He knew his brother's trial period was over. Brother, if you're really that bored, go take a look at Summit Retail. He paused, his tone becoming non-negotiable. Money isn't an issue, but I want a controlling stake, over 50%. It was a monumental task. Hector was silent for a moment before giving a wry laugh. You're really throwing me in at the deep end. This is just the beginning. Liam's gaze drifted to the horizon, as if he could already see the outline of a vast business empire. Before hanging up, Hector mentioned hesitantly, did Jenna tell you about the alumni group chat? Those guys still think you're the same old Liam. Liam's smile faded slightly, but he didn't elaborate. He had no idea that a storm was brewing. When Chloe came out of the office, she still wore a playful pout from the previous night's anticlimax. Liam leaned in with a serious expression. My little brother insisted on coming along to see your little sister. I couldn't stop him. Chloe's face flushed beet red. In full view of everyone at the company entrance, she gave him a flustered, charmingly angry look. At that moment, Jay's frantic call came through, a bomb that shattered the mood. Liam, get in the group chat right now and shut these jerks up. Under Chloe's unwavering gaze, Liam finally joined the group. On his phone, the chat, named Our Lost Youth, was on fire, with him at the center of the flames. The messages were like poisoned daggers, tearing open old wounds. Beating his wife, beating his kid, gambling. This Liam guy is full of surprises. Such a shame about Chloe. If she had married me, her life wouldn't be so miserable, a classmate named Donovan Dong posted. Hector and Vincent fought back fiercely but were drowned out by the chorus of mockery. Liam watched him passively until the notification of his entry popped up. The chat went silent for a moment. Then Donovan's condescending lecture began, every word dripping with self-righteous superiority. In response to it all, Liam simply typed, thank you for your advice. I understand. His restraint was taken as weakness. Another classmate, Fin Han, immediately jumped in. How about this? It's been a while since we all got together. Let's have a reunion at the Oceanus Hotel this Saturday night. You can bring Chloe, and we'll help you two patch things up. Okay, thank you for the trouble. Liam's reply made them feel certain he would be groveling by Saturday. Chloe was shaking with anger beside him. Are you crazy? After everything they said. Liam smiled and took her hand. Don't be angry. They said Saturday night, at the Oceanus Hotel, and that I should bring you. Chloe froze for a second, then realization dawned, her face lighting up with eager anticipation. Good. Then let's go give them a proper reunion. 2 days later was Sophie's 4th birthday. They were on the 75th floor of Azure Bay City's tallest building. Outside the massive windows, the city lights twinkled like a river of stars, a distant Ferris wheel turning like something from a fairy tale. In the private room, for the first time after years of turmoil, the Lin and Chun families sat together, truly as one, their faces beaming with genuine happiness. Caleb looked at Liam with a complex expression, but much of the hostility was gone. Sophie ran around a 4-tiered cake, her laughter the sweetest music. Chloe watched the scene, her eyes welling up with tears. A warm hand covered hers. This is just the beginning, Liam whispered in her ear. Everything you ever dreamed of, everything you hoped for. I'm going to give it all to you, piece by piece. He took out his phone, unlocked it, and held the screen in front of her. Chloe looked down, and her eyes widened. On the screen, under bank balance, the number 297 was followed by a string of zeros so long it made her dizzy. At the peak of the party, Liam raised his glass. His gaze swept over every member of his family, his voice firm. Today, on Sophie's birthday, I want to make a promise to all of you. The Liam you all once had such high hopes for is back. In that moment, everyone's eyes reddened. They knew that promise weighed far more than 297 billion yuan. On the first day of December, the wind was biting, but a sense of warmth spread through Azure Bay City's political and business circles. The groundbreaking ceremony for the Bayside Ring Road and Guoqing Bridge renovation was held, witnessed by both Mayor Marcus Zhou and a high-ranking official from the provincial government. Simultaneously, hundreds of miles away in Ezhou, the foundation ceremony for Phoenix Road and Phoenix Bridge was streamed live to countless online viewers. The Phoenix Group's name was on the headlines of every major news channel, associated with an unprecedentedly positive image. However, the star of the ceremony, the billionaire philanthropist Liam Lin, was currently curled up in his small apartment. He turned off the live stream and gently rubbed his eyes. The world's glamour was outside his window. Inside was his own peace. He mentally reviewed his upcoming schedule, the class reunion, acquiring land in Seascape City, the China's Hot Hits finale, the rap party for the movie Chronicles of the Cat God. His schedule was tight, but fulfilling. The phone rang. It was Director Gene. His voice was trembling with excitement. Mr. Lin, Chronicles of the Cat God will be finished filming in a week at most. I hope you can attend the wrap ceremony and give me your feedback. Of course, just call me ahead of time, Liam agreed with a smile. He knew this blockbuster, destined to shatter box office records, was just one final step away from taking the market by storm. Time flew by, and soon it was Saturday. At 5 in the afternoon, Liam picked up Chloe. He didn't take the flashy Phantom, instead settling into her compact Aura Good Cat and heading toward the Oceanus Hotel. For his so-called classmates, today's gathering was a feast of showing off and putting others down. For Liam, it was just a game to defend his wife's honor. I can't wait to see their jaws drop, Chloe said, gripping the steering wheel, her face a mix of anticipation and nerves. Liam just shook his head and smiled. He understood how she felt. She had waited far too long for this moment of vindication. Hector, Vincent, and Jay were already waiting in the hotel parking lot. Seeing Liam naturally take Chloe's hand, the three men all broke into knowing smiles. The warm moment was soon shattered by the roar of an engine. A fiery red Porsche Panamera pulled up next to the Aura. The door opened, and Jenna Zhao's familiar figure emerged. The air instantly grew awkward. Jenna clearly hadn't expected to see them either. She paused for a moment before walking over with a smile. What are you all talking about? You seem so happy. Chloe said nothing, just squeezed Liam's hand tighter. Liam, however, looked at her with a serious expression and declared, You listen to me, Chloe-chan. You are the only woman in this world who can make my heart ache. What about your mother? Chloe teased. That's different. She gave birth to me, but you give birth to my desires. Liam, I'm going to kill you. Amid Chloe's flustered protests and his friend's suggestive laughter, the group walked into the hotel. Outside their designated private room stood a large guest list, displaying the names of all the attendees. But one glaring omission was immediately obvious to everyone. The name Liam Lin was nowhere to be found. Damn it, Hector swore under his breath. What's the meaning of this? Is this a class reunion or Donovan Dong's private party? Liam just shrugged, showing no anger. But Chloe was furious, her jaw clenched. She pushed open the heavy door to the private room and strode inside. The room was a cacophony of clinking glasses and loud chatter. Donovan Dong, Fin Han, Lila Zhang. The most active members of the group chat were all there. The moment they saw Chloe, every man in the room stared. Dressed in a striking orange coat, her long hair flowing, she was the epitome of mature elegance, enough to make any man's head turn. Well, if it isn't our beautiful Miss Chun, Lila Zhang's sharp voice cut through the brief silence. Donovan immediately stood up, adjusted his collar, and hurried over, his eyes burning with unconcealed desire. Chloe, do you remember me? Of course, Chloe said with a cold smile, looking him straight in the eye. Donovan, is this your private party, or a class reunion? Of course it's a class reunion, Donovan stammered. Since it's a class reunion, Chloe's voice suddenly rose. Then why isn't Liam Lin's name on the list outside? Donovan feigned surprise and rushed out. Seeing Liam and the others, he immediately put on an overly friendly act, grabbing Liam's hand with great distress. My dear classmate Liam, it was my oversight. The staff at the Oceanus Hotel are just terrible. How could they make such a mistake? Watching his ham-fisted acting, Liam just smiled and didn't call him out. It's fine. It wasn't Donovan's fault. It's rare for us to get together. No need to spoil it over something so small. He took Chloe's hand and found a random seat, as if the whole incident were just a harmless joke. Outside the private room at the Oceanus Hotel, a gilded guest list stood on display, with every name meticulously written. Yet, on this seemingly comprehensive list, there was one glaring omission. Donovan Dong and his friends greeted each arriving classmate with enthusiasm, but when they saw Liam and Chloe, a flicker of triumph flashed in their eyes. Well, if it isn't our beautiful Miss Chun, Lila Zhang's sharp voice cut through the room's phony warmth. All eyes immediately turned to Chloe. In her striking orange coat and long, flowing hair, her mature elegance silenced the room. In her striking orange coat and long, flowing hair, her mature elegance silenced the room. Chloe. Donovan immediately stood, adjusting his expensive suit and rushing to greet her, his eyes burning with unconcealed desire. Since this is a class reunion, Why isn't Liam's name on the list outside? Donovan feigned shock and ran out the door. Seeing Liam, he put on an act of extreme friendliness, grabbing his hand in distress. My dear classmate Liam, it was my oversight. The staff here are just terrible, making such a mistake. Liam just smiled at the terrible acting and didn't call him out. It's fine. It wasn't intentional. No need to spoil the reunion over something so small. He led Chloe to a random seat, as if nothing had happened. Soon, the so-called reunion devolved into a blatant competition of wealth and status. During introductions, those with respectable jobs spoke with pride, while others mumbled with insecurity. The climax came when it was Lila Zhang's husband's turn. Quentin Qian cleared his throat and said in a tone of feigned modesty, "My name is Quentin Qian. I haven't done much, just opened a few chain pharmacies." "Mr. Qian, you're too humble." Finhan immediately buzzed over like a fly to honey. "Golden Leaf pharmacies are all over Azure Bay. Your personal net worth must be over 100 million, right?" Donovan raised his glass. "To have achieved so much by your 30s, Mr. Qian, I salute you." Basking in the fawning praise, Quentin became the center of attention, while Liam and Chloe were forgotten in their corner. Lila, seeing them whispering and laughing, was irritated. "Excuse me, can we have some basic respect? My husband is speaking. Can't you wait until he's finished?" Liam simply gestured for them to continue. But then, another classmate, Cody Chung, spoke up with a sneer. "Liam, I wanted to ask you, did you scare off Dylan Jung? He was in the group chat, but the moment you joined, he left. I guess he's not scared of you, just disgusted by you." A wave of suppressed laughter went through the room. Liam ignored the mocking gazes and said calmly, "My friend beat him up last time. He's probably still a little scared." "Still bragging," Finhan sneered. "You were like this in college, and you still haven't changed." "If you don't believe me, I can just call my friend over. I have something to ask him anyway." Before anyone could react, Liam dialed Nico Hong's number. A few minutes later, the door opened, and Nico's towering figure appeared. Quentin's eyes lit up, and he scurried over, bowing obsequiously. "Mr. Hong, do you remember me?" "Quentin Qian, from Golden Leaf Pharmacies." "Mr. Qian, I didn't expect to see you here," Nico said politely, his eyes scanning the room. "If you have time, Mr. Hong, perhaps you could join us for a drink." Quentin asked, flattered. "Perhaps next time," Nico said, his gaze finally landing on Liam. His face instantly broke into a wide smile. "I'm here to see my brother." "Brother?" Quentin followed his gaze. When he saw the calm-faced Liam, his mind went completely blank. "Brother Lin." Nico ignored everyone else and walked straight to Liam, his tone as deferential as a younger brother's. "Why didn't you tell me you were here? The best private suite is always reserved for you." His words were a thunderclap that silenced the entire room. The color drained from the faces of Donovan and Finn. Quentin felt his legs go weak. He finally understood that his 100 million yuan fortune was nothing, less than nothing, in front of this man's actual little brother. One more thing. Liam's gaze shifted to Donovan, his smile still gentle. "That guest list outside. Who planned it?" "Everyone's name was there, except for mine." Nico's face instantly darkened. He pulled out his phone and called the head of the planning department. Under Nico's icy stare, the young manager stammered out the truth. It was Mr. Dong who called later and specifically told me to remove the name Liam Lin." The truth was out. Donovan's face turned purple. Hector and Vincent could no longer hold back, unleashing all their pent-up anger in a torrent of scathing insults. "So it's CEO Lin." Quentin, finally snapping out of his shock, rushed to Liam's side and forcibly shook his hand. "I've long heard of the great Phoenix Pharmaceuticals. To meet you today, please don't blame me for being blind and failing to recognize your greatness." Phoenix Pharmaceuticals, the behemoth that had donated 3 billion. A collective gasp went through the room. Everyone stared at Liam as if he were a monster. Liam slowly stood up, ignoring Quentin. His gaze swept over the now silent Donovan and the others. "Classmates should be classmates. We came for a reunion, and we should have kept that spirit." He shook his head, a hint of disappointment in his voice. "Unfortunately, it seems you've spent so long with your sycophantic friends that you've forgotten how to be decent human beings." He walked to Chloe and held out his hand like a true gentleman. "My lady, shall we go home?" "Yes, let's go home." Chloe beamed, her smile as bright as spring, and placed her hand in his. They turned and left under the complex stares of awe, fear, and regret, leaving behind a dead silent room and a floor littered with shattered pride.